Why does nobody want to drive for Alpine? It seems like Alpine have put themselves out there as one of the most hated teams on the grid, and with all the right reasons so. They've lost a number of talented drivers in a very short period, but nothing will top the losing of two drivers, one that is a two-time world champion and one that is one of the best young prospects on the grid, in a matter of 48 hours. Alpine is currently fighting for the P4 spot in the Constructors' Championship, so it's not like the car is not performing well. We've seen Alonso finishing P2 on Saturday's qualifying session in Canada, so while the pace and performance are there, what's wrong with Alpine? Stick around until the end of this video to find out more. For starters, it seems like Alpine loves to play dirty games when it comes to signing drivers to their team, so it's not a coincidence that they lost such a good amount of good drivers in such a short time. Fernando Alonso is a two-time world champion, and the fact that he won those championships with Renault only adds to the fact that the team holds a special place in his heart. So for him to leave the team for Aston Martin with a very brief and swift move, and for Piastri to deny a guaranteed seat in the team that's currently the best of the rest on the paddock, the team's structure must really suck. And indeed, the structure of the team is not respecting the drivers for the profiles they are. Alpine thought they can play games with Alonso, who's been in this sport forever, and just hope that he'll retire after the next season ends and they can bring in Piastri. Little did they know that Alonso had a plan for his future that didn't involve Alpine, although he did get a bit lucky with Vettel's retirement announcement. Still, the old fox managed to negotiate a deal with the British-based team and will stay 3 more years in Formula One. Alpine wasn't willing to commit that much to Alonso, and if you're in their shoes, you'll probably understand why. They have Piastri waiting on the sidelines, a young and prospective Aussie that is just full of potential. He won the F3 and F2 championships under Alpine's flagship, and letting him go was much more painful compared to Alonso. After all, they didn't give Alonso what he wants, so it's evident that he'll leave the team. This was a risk they were willing to take, but they didn't juggle their options right, as by the time they were preoccupied with forcing Alonso to sign the 1+1 contract they were offering him, Piastri found a seat somewhere else. This saw Alpine losing both of their drivers in a timeline of just 48 hours. The future isn't that dark for Alpine, as they will likely sign Pierre Gasly, who is kind of a much better choice than both of the drivers they lost. They invested so much intel and money in Piastri, and they are literally being clowned right now on the grid for the moves they decided to pull. But this isn't the first time that Alpine, previously known as Renault, lost a driver that had a huge potential to make the team really competitive. In fact, he did make the team competitive yet again, as we all know how Ricciardo scored those 2 podiums in 2020 after such a long pause for the team. Ricciardo did sign an extension with the team in 2019 for 2 more years, after signing a 1-year deal with Renault in 2018 after leaving Red Bull. This signing was perceived as one of the strongest and most promising ones at that time, and by 2020, Ricciardo did deliver solid performance for the team and finished P5 in 2020 in the Drivers' Championship. Still, he left the team for their main rivals McLaren, although Alpine is winning that battle now. Paradoxically, Ricciardo is the main reason why McLaren is struggling to keep hold with the French team. What could be the reason why Ricciardo left the Renault team after such a strong season in 2020? It seems like he didn't believe Renault can continue with the strong performance, or he didn't believe in the leadership of the team. It's very important that Ricciardo left Red Bull because they opted for the Honda engines in 2018 after using the Renault engines for quite some time. Despite being manufacturers themselves, Renault were unsuccessful in pursuing Ricciardo for at least 1 more year, and he kind of started the trend of drivers not wanting to stick with this team if other options are available. Before the start of the season, Alpine parted ways with one of the best drivers that ever participated in this sport, Alain Prost. Alain was senior advisor for the team and is a 4-time world champion. But according to Laurent Rossi, the team no longer needed advice from Alain Prost in the upcoming period. This didn't go unnoticed or put under the carpet by Alain Prost either, as he said that Laurent Rossi wanted all the light. Losing drivers is one thing, but losing special advisors like Prost does indeed show that something isn't right in the team, and that has been noted by individuals who are on different paths in their careers. For example, Alonso is at the end of his career. Prost is here to give advice on how the team can perform better, while Piastri is yet to make an F1 debut. All of these are on very different paths in their lives, so it's something that makes you scratch your head and ask yourself, what the hell is going on in Alpine? Here's a fact that will leave you flabbergasted, to say the least. Alpine does have a junior drivers' academy, such as Red Bull, Mercedes, and now Aston Martin, as the latter signed Felipe Drugovich, the newest F2 champion in their junior rows. After all that has happened with Piastri, and now that Doohan is involved with the Alpine and Williams seat, you'd think that Alpine does pay enough attention to its junior drivers program. At least that's what Red Bull and Mercedes do, considering the fact that the likes of Vettel, Ricciardo, and Verstappen were all bred in Toro Rosso, now known as Alpha Tauri. However, Alpine has promoted literally 0 drivers from its junior driver program to the senior team. At this part, you can go ahead and say that it is the most pointless academy in the world, since they are literally breeding talent for its competition. It is pointless for Alpine if we must be precise, since McLaren has been able to capitalize the most on one of their projects, named Oscar Piastri, as the young Aussie will now drive for the Woking-based team in the upcoming period. Piastri isn't the only one that will drive an F1 from the upcoming season and has been signed in Alpine's academy, as Joe from Alfa Romeo has also been a part of the academy in his F2 days. Joe said that his contract with Alpine expired at the end of 2021, and back then he was offered the chance with Alfa Romeo, which he accepted with joy. Joe said that it wasn't an easy decision, but it was something that had to be done, as he added that his choice was right. Given the fact of how well these drivers were performing in their respective teams, such as Lundgaard in IndyCar 500, Joe in Alpha, and Doohan in F2, it's evident that talent is present in their academy, and something else is lacking. Even for Doohan, it's likely that the team are willing to settle him in Williams rather than give him a first-handed chance in Alpine, a plan that they also meant to implement on Piastri too, but the Aussie has escaped this situation. I mean, the question is all over their faces. Didn't you learn anything from the Piastri saga? It's good to have a year or two of learning experience in a lower performing team, but not when the seat is open. Just look at what Verstappen is able to do at 24 years of age, as he joined Red Bull at 16 years. Although the law doesn't allow drivers to race prior to the age of 18, it's still something that really makes you think when it comes to Alpine's academy and the team's choices when it comes to hiring within. According to Alpine CEO Laurent Rossi, the academy of Alpine will likely be shut down after all the Piastri saga that hurt them so badly that they lost a huge investment in the young Aussie. Rossi added, "The problem it creates is that it makes the market too fluid a place. That endangers the stakeholders that invest in it. If you decide that you're going to save money every year by not investing in drivers, and then you just poach them with that money you saved, it's a different proposition. I'm not sure, therefore I want to continue training those drivers, or I'm going to have to lock them in with a contract that might not be appealing to them," finished Rossi. Of course, this is just a scapegoat excuse, and if Rossi was to give one of its academy drivers a full-time seat, now that the seat is available, we are 100% sure that he'll change the narrative of the Drivers' Academy existence in the first place. With that being said, what do you think about Alpine and the way they are treating their academy drivers? Let us know in the comments below.